Here we are at the transmission, and this is the front line here. Closest to the front of the transmission is the pump, so this will be pumping it out, and then it will return on this one, which comes back to the back of the transmission here. So that's the return line. And as you can see, it comes in around here, and it's right close to our exhaust. And then it will follow along underneath and alongside the oil pan here to the front of the vehicle. Up here at the front of the vehicle, this is the disconnect for one of the lines, and this one here is a factory crimp that goes along, and it's crimped there as well, and then it'll go up, and we'll show you up to the top here where it goes to. And it comes up in here, and this is where it's been spliced into the transmission cooler at the front. So it'll come to the cooler on one end and come out of the other. And then that other line from the cooler comes to the top of the rad here, and then we'll exit the rad, if I can get down in there, and that fitting just above the upper, just above the lower rad hose, and then that'll return to the transmission. So factory, it would be this portion of the rad would cool your transmission fluid, and then people will install an auxiliary cooler just to add that cooling capacity. So a common problem in the cold weather in the winter is that you'll lose maybe your power steering line. This is the pressure line that goes in, and on some vehicles that'll break, and in our case here it could be the cold weather which has compromised one of our cooling lines for the transmission. Maybe not, but so what we want to do is we want to fix that leaking line. And the line is leaking these factory crimps and possibly a portion of the hose here. And so we need to find a repair for this. And I'll show you at the bench what we got going on. So here on the bench here, this is the fitting that's coming out of our rad, and it connects to the hose. And then from the hose, I had built this fitting here, which connects to that threaded piece. So from the bottom of the radiator to this threading nut here is the one connection with that removable rubber hose. So that threaded nut threads onto here, and then I got this put into a coupler, and from the coupler to here, so that we can install our hose. And this is to that bottom connection on the radiator. So when you replace the radiator on these things, I've replaced a couple of them, and they're never really the same. They'll have different connections on there. I don't know why, but in this case, it has like this inverted flare connection on the radiator on the bottom, and I think it has a different connection on the top. Some of them will just have these on top and bottom, and there's a difference here too, where this one here is again for the inverted flare, and this one here is just straight thread in. So depending on what you got to work with there, things may be different, but in my case this is what I got. And we got a couple different style nuts here, so all of these are actually the same, even though they may not look like it. They're different fittings, but they all serve the same purpose in giving us that seal for the inverted flare there. And when we're looking at the inverted flare, this is the inside, so that is a tapered kind of a male end on there on the bottom, and then this will seat into that, and that makes your seal there. Same thing with all like fuel line and brake line and stuff like that. So I measured these threads on here at 1.5 for the pitch, just for your own information, if that helps you out. And what I'm kind of gonna go with here is I'm going to cut that line that's in the Jeep, because it's all factory crimped and it needs to be cut and removed to be repaired. And then I've practiced on a piece of tubing here, and so I'll cut that, and then I'll create my flare with my nut on there. I'm going to thread that in to this piece, and this is a 3/8 inverted flare to a 1/4 inch pipe thread. I think I'm going to go with this T, because then I could remove this plug if I wanted to, and then this would act as a drain, and I could drain the fluid. You know, if you have too much in the transmission, you need to drain some, you could do it this way. If you want to drain the fluid for when you got to remove the radiator or whatever other purpose. So I'm thinking, you know, maybe that's a simple, easy drain to put on there. And then again, like we got going on here, we'll have this fitting here. I'm gonna put some 3/8 rubber hose, and both of them will be the same. This will be the weak link. This will be the replaceable piece that if it ever starts leaking, you just simply replace this hose on either end. And they will be different, because this one will have the female connection here, and this one will have the male connection. So it's not like you're going to get them mixed up either. So I'm just practicing with I got some line here. Do my flare before I do it on the actual one in the Jeep, because I don't want to make any mistakes or anything like that. So here's the instructions for the flaring kit, and this is the same kit that's used for brake lines, fuel lines. And so I'm told you only need a single flare on low pressure, and you need the double flare for the brakes because of the high pressure. I just always do a double flare on mine. And so here's the tool and the vise here, and you take your tubing, which if you measure this is the 3/8. If you measure the outside diameter here, and you're going to pop it up in here, and you're going to tighten down the clamp. Once you've got it tightened down in the clamp here, you want to set it. Here's your button for the 3/8, and you want to set it to the same height as there, and that's what we were talking about in the instructions here. And then you take your button and you throw it on top, and then you've got your clamping tool, and you're going to squish that down until the button touches the bottom here. And then once you've once you've got that, you'll take the button off, and then as the instructions say, now you're just going to squeeze it down with the anvil, and then you'll create your double flare. So when you're doing this, you want to kind of clean up the inside. You use a file. You can use the tool on the end of the pipe cutter here. You get that in there, or something similar, and you're just breaking off the rough edge and loose metal on the inside. You can also dress up the outside with a file, because you're going to be underneath the vehicle when you're doing this. So dress that up with a file, just makes it go a little better. And as always, nothing ever goes like it's supposed to. This was the clamp that's provided in the kit, and once you put this button on here and you go to use this clamp, it doesn't work. It's not long enough. So I'm gonna have to start it with another tool. I'll push that down with this one, and then I'll finish it off with this one here. And so that'll be flaring our one end of the transmission line that's still in the vehicle, that needs to be fixed there. So we drive that down with this tool here, and once we've got that driven down, and you'll see there's a bit of a gap, bit of a space there, and you don't have to, it's not going to touch the bottom. And then you pull out the little tool, the adapter there. Then we're gonna put on our other one here, and then we just crank that anvil down until we get our flare, and that is gonna be what connects to the inverted flare on the other fitting. So you just give that a couple cranks till it wants to stop, and there we have our flare for our inverted flare on the fitting here. Now when you're doing this on the Jeep, you got to remember, before you start flaring the end, you got to put your connector on there. You got to this is the one I'm using here. You got to get that on there first before you start doing your flare. Otherwise you're gonna have to cut the end off and redo it again. So make sure that this is on there, and whatever, use some black tape or something, put it on there, tape it off so it's out of the way if it wants to slide down and bother you, and do your end. Once you got that on, you're ready to go. Here we are underneath, and we cut off that end there, and here it is. Here's that hose that we're removing, and we're gonna replace. Also too, we took the front off here to get at the cooler. Disconnect that cooler, we get that line out of there. Disconnect that cooler. Here's one of the lines, and the other one was over here. We've dropped that down, and we'll make our new hoses, hook everything back up, and put that back together. Here we are with the finished piece. So this is our plug if we want to drain it. If you don't want to put a T in there, you could just put a couple couplers in here. And we're going from the flared fittings to hoses. And this bottom one is gonna go over, and it's gonna connect to this bottom fitting on the radiator. And this top one here is gonna go in to the front, in through here to the front and down, and it's going to connect to our tranny cooler bottom fittings here on this side. So that's pretty much it. I don't have enough hose here. I'm gonna have to go get some more hose to finish the connections. Make sure when you run and cut your hose, you got enough that you'll be able to pull this out and install it again. So you got some room to work. just like electrical wires. You want to have enough so you can pull it out, disconnect it. Just makes things a little easier.